Once more, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to our APRU Asia Pacific Women in Leadership Mentoring Program webinar, Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges. My name is Glynis Kincaid. I'm an APWiL Mentoring Program Manager and Global Learning Advisor at the University of California, Santa Cruz. And we want to welcome you to this year's International Women's Day webinar for our wonderful APWiL Mentoring Program participants, our alumni, and core group members, as well as guests from across the Asia Pacific Rim. We're excited to host all of you today and bring us all together. This webinar is brought to you by the APWiL Mentoring Program in collaboration with APWiL Mentoring Program alumni, mentor and mentees from Universiti Malaya. So we're excited to host this event, and we're excited for us to focus on the empowerment of women and ways we can break barriers and build bridges, as you can tell from the title. And we want to just emphasize again, we're excited to be gathered here today to celebrate International Women's Day, to hopefully gain new perspectives and find ways to advance gender equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we believe it's important to hear diverse voices and experiences of women leaders across the Asia Pacific Rim. We look forward to what we're going to learn from today's event, and we hope that it emphasizes the various roles of women in society and the necessity of gender equity. And we hope that it inspires folks to see women leaders as role models and demonstrating their abilities and inspiring others to achieve their personal goals. And we hope that through this webinar, we're able to reduce barriers to women's success by promoting collaboration and teamwork towards equity. Now I would like to introduce our wonderful moderator and host for today's event, helping us host, Professor Dr. Stefanie Shamila Pillai. Stefanie is a professor at the Faculty of Languages and Linguistics at Universiti Malaya. She was previously the Dean of the Faculty and Chair of the Social Advancement and Happiness Research Cluster at She previously headed the University's Center for Industry and Community Linkage. She was also a mentor in the third cohort of the APWiL Mentoring Program. Stefanie is a pioneering member of the Malaysian chapter of the International Dean's Course, my IDC, I hope I'm saying that right, where she led sessions on effective communication and has thus far mentored 10 participants from various disciplines over the two cohorts of my IDC. Recently, she led an early career researchers development program funded by the Association of Commonwealth Universities and where she also mentored 6 of the participants. In terms of research, she works in the area of language use in multilingual context, which include issues related to language education, language policy, and language endangerment. Her linguistic research also focuses on the Malaysian variety of English, Malacca, hopefully I also said that right, Portuguese, and endangered language. So thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you, Glynis. Bom dia, that's in Malacca Portuguese. Good morning, everyone, and happy International Women's Day to everyone. I'm really excited today to moderate today's session because, you know, we have such illustrious speakers today, and we also have a very apt theme to delve into today, breaking barriers, building bridges, because surely all of us have faced at one point or another some form of barrier, and some of those barriers have been really difficult to overcome. So one way of dismantling these barriers, and whether they're cultural or social or gender related ones, is really through the bridges that connect us through mentoring platforms such as the one that we have under APWiL. So in this spirit today of today's theme, we really are fortunate to hear from 2 women leaders who will be sharing their own journeys and their own perspectives. So join me in welcoming Professor Dato Dr. Adeeba Kamarulzaman and Professor Kyoko Ohara. So allow me first to introduce Professor Dato Dr. Adeeba Kamarulzaman, a colleague, and I should say still a colleague at although she is now the President and Pro-Vice Chancellor of Monash University in Malaysia. And prior to this appointment, she was Dean of the Faculty of Medicine at and she continues to be an Honorary Professor at She's also an Adjunct Professor at Yale University. Professor Adeeba is an infectious disease physician by training, and she is a passionate advocate for social justice, especially in relation to HIV prevention, treatment and care, and drug policies. She has done a lot for the country and also for I would say globally. She presently serves as the chairman of the Malaysian AIDS Foundation and is the immediate past president of the International AIDS Society. She's also the founding chair of Rose Foundation, an organization that is committed to eliminating cervical cancer in Malaysia and in the region. At the international level, Professor Adeeba has been an advisor to numerous agencies such as WHO, UNAIDS, and UN ODC committees, and mainly on AIDS, HIV and AIDS and substance use related issues. She's a member of the Global Commission on Drug Policy and the Global Council on Inequalities, HIV and Pandemics. So, of course, her achievements have been recognized through several national and international awards, including she is a two-time recipient of the prestigious Merdeka Award. That's a national award in Malaysia. And recently, in 2023, she was the Tokoh Academic Negara, or National Academic Figure. This is like one of the Oscar of academia, okay? And in April 2015, she was honored with a Doctor of Laws from her alma mater, Monash University in Australia, for her role as a healthcare advocate and her contribution to medicine. So I think a big round of applause to Prof. Adeeba. And next, it gives me great pleasure. You know, I'm running through this because I want to get straight into talking to them. So, but next, it gives me very great pleasure to introduce a fellow linguist. It's very seldom that I get to do this. So I'm so honored to introduce Professor Kyoko Hirose Ohara. And she's a distinguished scholar in the field of linguistics who is renowned for her groundbreaking research and contributions to the understanding of language. She earned her PhD in linguistics from the University of California, Berkeley in 1996, where she developed her expertise in cognitive and computational linguistics. Professor Ohara is currently affiliated with the Faculty of Science and Technology at Keio University. I like this combination of linguistics and then arts and science. So amazing work. Since 2017, she actually served as a research fellow at the Riken Center for Advanced Intelligence Project, where her work delves into the intersection of linguistics and artificial intelligence. So this pushes the boundary of language processing technology. Professor Ohara was also a visiting researcher at the Center for Japanese Studies at the University of California at Berkeley in 2019. This broadened her academic horizons and fostered international collaboration. Her dedication to scholarly inquiry is, of course, reflected in her numerous research grants and awards. And I'm just going to mention a few here. Notable among these are the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, the JSPS grants in aid for scientific research, which she received consistently over several periods spanning from 2007 to the present. And one of her significant contributions includes this grant, a JSPS grant for a US-Japan bilateral joint project on frame-based Japanese-English bilingual lexicon. This really showcases her commitment to fostering international partnerships in linguistic research. And additionally, she's the recipient of the Amano Institute of Technology research grant in 2023 to 2024, as well as the Keio University Next Generation Grant 2020-2023. And in recognition of exceptional teaching skills, so excellent researcher, excellent teacher, Professor Ohara was awarded the Best Lecturers Award at the Faculty of Science and Technology, Keio University in 2022. And Professor Ohara's scholarly achievements, coupled with her passion for advancing the understanding of language, continues to inspire people like me, her colleagues, students alike, cementing her reputation as a leading figure in the field of linguistics. And I should also mention that Professor Ohara was also a mentor in the third cohort of the APWiL Mentoring Program. So everyone, once again, please join me in welcoming Professor Dato Dr. Adeeba Kamarulzaman and Professor Ohara to today's webinar. And so I think I'm just on time to start. Professor Adeeba, I'm going to put you on the spotlight to begin with you. I'm going to start by asking you about, based on your experience, right, at the national and international level, what do you see as the primary barriers encountered by women? And can you share some strategies that can be used to effectively maybe mitigate or break these barriers? So over to you, Prof. Adeeba.
Thanks, Steffanie. First of all, I need to apologize if there's some background noise. I am using headphones, but I am at the KLIA lounge. I just arrived from Melbourne this morning and I'm en route to Penang. So can you hear any background noise? Is it
Nothing.
bad?
So far it's good. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
great. Okay. So what are the barriers that we women face, both locally and internationally? I think you can kind of divide that in terms of biological and structural, as well as, sort of, the innate differences between us women and men. And I think all of you would agree that there are kind of innate differences for the most part. So particularly for those of us who have pursued, tertiary education beyond just, a degree. All of you here, I'm sure, have done PhDs, and in my case, went on to specialize. Unfortunately, that very period of intense study and training is when, we meet our partners, we start a family. So these are very, very real barriers, I think, that women face just at the trajectory of their career advancement. So until and unless we women, until and unless institutions, employers, universities, governments recognize this and put in measures to assist women, it gets very difficult. So we see even to this day, I think there was a recent proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences article, which says that, the representation of women in universities across the board is good, is high, but when it comes to leadership, it has improved, but it's still nowhere near what we all hope to see. And I strongly believe that this this is one of the issues, and unless we have adequate childcare and increasingly adequate aged care to support women who, by and large, are expected to do both of this, then we will not see scale up of women representation in leadership. And nothing could have driven this more than during the pandemic, where all of us were juggling being professionals, being mothers, being wives, being cooks at home, looking after, cleaners and aged care parents. So that would be the most practical. It needs, huge policies and investment by governments to provide these kinds of care for both ends of the spectrum, early child care as well as aged care. So that's number one. The second barrier is sometimes, I think, we women ourselves. Maybe I can only speak for myself, but by and large, I think, again, generalizing, but I think it's also been shown that we are less likely to put ourselves forward for promotions, for representation at committees, etc. Often thinking we're not good enough, the whole imposter syndrome thing. And I must admit, even now, I'm sitting at one of the highest committees, which is at the WHO Science Council, advising Dr. Tedros, and every single meeting I still think, what am I doing here with the other 10, 11, very, very accomplished scientists from around the world? So I don't know whether it's an inherent thing in women or is it just my personality, and I don't know, but it's something I recognize and I work hard to overcome by being very prepared at these meetings, so that you can give input and be part of the conversation rather than sitting back. The third is very much structural. I think 2024, and you still see very few vice chancellors of universities that are women. I'm proud to say that Monash University has a vice chancellor, had a vice chancellor who's a woman, and Sharon Pickering, the new vice chancellor who took office in February, is a great feminist and did her work in human trafficking and gender-based violence. So you'll see great support for women at Monash University. So at academia, at boards, and Malaysia has a 30% has decreed, I guess, a policy to see women representation at corporate boards at 30%. I don't think we have reached that yet, but thankfully the numbers are increasing. And there are incentives, I think, given to boards, and there are committees being formed. As conservative as Malaysia is, I must say, we can proudly say, our most recent central bank governor is a woman. The one before, of course, was very well recognized internationally, female central bank governor. But despite all of this, there's still so much work to be done, and I think we need, well, first of all, create awareness as we are doing here, put in programs to assist and intervene. And number three, policies and investment by governments in some of the more difficult structural changes.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All for now, Steffanie.
Yeah, right. That's a lot to take in, and I think a lot of us it resonates with a lot of us. I'd just like to highlight one thing that I'm glad you brought up: the fact that in the beginning of our careers, it might be children and partners that we're concerned with, and as we towards mid-career or towards the end of our careers, it's maybe aged parents or in-laws that we are looking after. Particularly, maybe this is more common in the Asian context, but this is something that's worrying. We've seen attrition rates go up in employment in industry because of this. And the second thing is recognizing our own, I wouldn't call it weaknesses, but at least to recognize where we still can improve, and that recognition and awareness is important. And the third one that you mentioned is that a lot of the things is external, in the sense that we do need to push for policy changes, whether it's at the institutional level or the government level. And so I want to ask Prof. Ohara or Kyoko, if I may, what has been your experience of similar things? Like, what barriers have you yourself faced, and how have you overcome them?
All right, thank you. First of all, I'll talk about my experiences, and I see my younger colleagues, and I see that my younger female colleagues, they are very much, as Professor Adeeba said, very much into parenting, and what's more, they think it's only them that they're struggling with working at the same time parenting. And so I must have felt the same way when I was raising my two kids, but they say that they think it's only them, and if they can just get through this period of parenting, they feel better. So I feel like they don't seek help, or they don't seem to think that it's important to unite, because they think it's only their own problems, and they're not necessarily, it doesn't involve other people. So I see that in general, we tend to think, in my community, many people think diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important, but it's not that relevant to themselves. And I used to feel that way too, but I now think that it's very much relevant to every one of us. And by achieving diversity, equity, and inclusion for at least for women to begin with, it will be easier for men to work. And so awareness is a very much obstacle, I feel. And another thing I feel is the generational divide or generational gap. So I graduated in the mid 80s, and in my first 10 years, I worked in IBM Japan, and in 1996, I started working at Keio University. But in the 1990s, the idea was that we have to work like men, and that was very much important for us to be like men. And at the same time, we felt like we had to be superwomen, not just doing work, but at the same time be perfect at home. So and I see my colleagues in my generation, and we still have this kind of feeling. And in addition, not uniting with colleagues, but rather we tend to think that I have to be the one to be I have to be the first woman to be among the men. So I see some people like that still. So when I talk to my younger colleagues, I see the generational divide, and the young people, even though they have a different idea about sharing experiences with their own generations, they don't feel like talking to older generation because of the different background. So I think another obstacle, the second obstacle, is having this generational divide. And the third point is that I personally always wanted to have a mentor. And that was partly because in my first 10 years as an employee at IBM Japan, we had this system of a mentoring system, so mentoring program. So I benefit from having a mentor. But in my university, the mentoring program just started 2 years ago. And when I try to recruit my younger colleagues to apply for mentees, they didn't feel like they needed a mentor. So maybe it partly comes from this generational divide, thinking that mentor is something like a mother telling you what to do. And I don't know, but I personally regret this lack of need for mentors, because I personally benefit from having a mentor, and I also benefit personally being a mentor with Dr. Uma Ravat in the third cohort. So yeah, so I think I feel like I need to tell my colleagues about the importance of having mentors, and also serving as mentors and
Yes,
in my
yeah.
university.
Yeah.
And as for how to overcome the challenges, obstacles, I think having a task force is a very important and effective. I actually was in a task force to improve the situation in our Faculty of Science and Technology since 3 years ago. And that task force consisted of both men and women in various age groups, in various fields. And we learned a lot by sharing ideas, but first of all, becoming aware of the current problems in the faculty. So having a task force is very helpful to talk to each other, to share, but importantly, to be aware of our current situations.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that one of the things I want to kind of highlight in what you said was that we really are not alone, but we often feel alone. We feel that we're the only ones going through this, and part of it is not having that bridge, not having that network. But also maybe, as you also kind of pointed out, people don't want to share either because they feel that you won't understand me, or I don't want to say it because then it sounds like I'm whinging, and I don't want, especially if you have different genders involved, you might feel that, oh, they're going to see, oh, it's a woman's problem, it's your problem. So I don't want to show that I have the problem. And that can lead to a lot of other stresses and pressures. And as you said, the generational gap may be one of the reasons people staying away from mentoring. But I think from APWiL, we also learned that, we've often mentored peers. My mentee was also a professor of phonetics. So, but we have so much to learn from each other. And mentoring can be from the younger generation to the older generation as well. So I think we changed the idea of mentoring, perhaps that might change things. So that's something to think about for everyone here. Thank you, Kyoko. I'll move to Adeeba again. Adeeba, you've had such an illustrious career. We're so proud of you at UM and also as a Malaysian. What has been like among your sort of the highlights for you, like the really feel good ones for you, and who has like, would you say that these successes, these wins have been because you've had the network, the support from certain people? Could you share a little bit about how,
absolutely. Yeah. I guess one of the toughest, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge that, being Dean of Medicine for 10 years has been one of, achievements, and working alongside colleagues like Yvonne, and now she's a leader herself. I think at one point, 3 of the deputy deans were all women, and it wasn't by design. It was, but they're the most accomplished people in the faculty, and that's how it is. But I guess one of the most tough challenges that I took on, and I'm very proud of, is to establish the needle syringe program and the methadone program, the harm reduction program for Malaysia. That was back in the late 1990s, when, although my primary job was as a HIV physician, but I just couldn't stand seeing more and more people becoming infected with HIV as a result of not having access to clean needles and syringes. And kind of started advocating with a few like-minded people. And to cut a long story short, the government consented to us doing a pilot program, working together with Ministry of Health and other NGOs. And today we've seen a remarkable decline in the number of new infections as a result of drug use. And it's been, taken up by the government as a national program. And so that I think is what I would consider something that I'm very, very proud of, because it was, oh my God, I think I entered into it pretty naively, thinking, I trained in Australia, this was done in Australia, and little did I know that there was no structure, no funding, no nothing, lots of training that needed to be done, lots of minds that needed to, hearts that needed to be won. But having the support of colleagues here in Malaysia as well as in Australia was instrumental in putting in a program, and monitoring and evaluation, training, and then of course, and this goes not just for this program without saying, but for everything else. I think having a supportive spouse and extended family has been key for my own personal success as well.
Thank you so much. A lot of the times, we have so many things that we do, but yes, I remember that program, and yes, that's congratulations on that. I think you saved many lives, more than you probably thought you could in the beginning. Prof. Ohara, what about you? Could you share with us some of your, like, what to you was like, a big win for you, something that you are really proud of, and what was the support system that helped you with this win?
All right. again, it's very local, but I have two things I really like, and I still think that I want to continue developing the programs. One is we created a global leadership seminar and global leadership exchange program for undergraduates in our faculty of science and technology, and it took us 2 years. And I was the leader of the working group to create this new class. The class it just celebrated 10th anniversary last summer. That was we the dean of our faculty wanted to have a new undergraduate curriculum toward the 75th anniversary of our faculty, and especially focusing on internationally or diverse minded students. And together with my colleagues, we decided that how students can become global leaders, and we wanted to see when we celebrate our faculty's 100th anniversary, we might be able to see actual global leaders from the seminar and the exchange program. And by discussing what's a global leader with the students in the seminar, and first with my colleagues in order to create this new seminar, but after the seminar got started, we faculty members were able to discuss what's important to be global leaders with the students. And that was very helpful for me, because when I was working for IBM, it was pretty much leadership minded. So the company wanted women to be leaders in the company. But in academia, at least in Japan, or at least in my university, nobody was taught to be a leader. So we are told to be to do our excellent jobs in research and education, but nobody has taught about being a leader. So in that sense, Professor Adeeba's experiences are very inspiring. But through working to create a global leadership seminar and exchange programs for the students, and after it was created, by discussing what's a global leader with the students, I learned a lot. And another thing is something new. During the third cohort of the APWiL program, together with Dr. Uma Robert, we studied Keio University of California, Santa Barbara exchange program, focusing on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, and focusing on DEI and global leaderships, because we thought that the global leadership is changing, because the world is changing so rapidly, and oftentimes, as Professor Adeeba mentioned, science and technology motivates changes in the world, not just politics. And the role of STEM is increasing, and but only working in science, technology, engineering, and math may not help the world's global problems. So we wanted to focus on human side, soft side of a global leadership, and we had this 3-day exchange program at UC Santa Barbara last summer, bringing 10 students from Keio together with 2 of my colleagues, and meeting with Dr. Robert and other, in total about 5 faculty members at UC Santa Barbara.
Right.
And that was very rewarding and very inspiring for me as well. And
Yes.
so, yeah, but the obstacles or the challenges I had having, again, biases and stereotypes, not of the society or men, but also myself. So, yeah, as I said, I was raised to be act like men. I mean, in terms of
Work. Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
study,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I was told by my parents to be confident
Yes.
or
Yes.
at home as well. So I had to struggle with my own biases and stereotypes. But again, I had a very nice help from my parents and also my colleagues, including Professor Keio Okuda, who's a vice president of Keio University right now. And I also try to work on work-life balance.
Yeah.
And
Not easy, that one.
It's pretty recent. It's like last 10 years, but
Yes.
I started running when I have time. And
Fantastic.
I've been, and also I also studied mindful meditation about
Nice.
2 years ago.
Looks like we
And
have a lot to learn
having
from you on how to
having
do
helpful.
that, how to have that balance, which is, I think, really important. And may I congratulate you? I would really want to congratulate you on that program you have with the students, because often we forget about leadership training with the students, and not just our colleagues and ourselves, but also students. So I think that's a really great initiative that all of us here can learn from your university, from your own experience and your university's experience. Now, I know we're rushing through time, but just taking on, about your, you said you struggled, right, within like sometimes our cultural upbringing and then what is expected of us at the workplace. So I want to ask Prof. Adeeba, I mean, being in Malaysia and also you work at the international level, I mean, you meet with people from different cultures and different perspectives. Can you very quickly tell us like what are some of your maybe 2 or 3 strategies that you use to kind of deal with different cultures, different perspectives that when you have to make decisions, for example? Prof. Adeeba.
Well, thanks, Steffanie. I think first of all, we should recognize that there are more similarities and there are differences for the most part, right? And particularly when you fall into a certain discipline, it kind of attracts, by and large, like-minded people. So, for example, in the world of HIV/AIDS, diversity and inclusivity has always been super important. We've always the whole idea of greater involvement of people living with AIDS started very early in the 80s, and that has permeated everything that we do. For example, the conferences that I chaired during my time and still as president, the ethos is to ensure diversity in committee representation, in chairmanship of sessions, in the actual sessions themselves, of having the whole gamut of representation, regional, gender, whether you are living with HIV, etc. So that's I guess been in my blood for decades now. So how do I deal with the different cultures? I guess nothing beats listening and having an open mind, trusting, communicating. Those 2 things, listening and good communication. I believe diplomacy solves more problems than going head on and having a much more aggressive, if you like, approach to solving problems.
Yes. I think that finding that balance is not always easy, and we learn from experience, right? Yeah. But I like that it's part of you, it's part of your ethos. You're living the idea of having representation from different groups, or the stakeholders. I think that's important as well. Just as we come to our final question, just maybe in 1 minute, Kyoko, I start with you. It's just basically, this is a very big question, but essentially, there have been gains made, and both of you have mentioned things, from your experience, things have changed, and you have changed yourselves. But how can we make sure that some of the gains that we've made, not just on International Women's Day, but if you think about your younger colleagues or new colleagues coming in, new women colleagues coming in, how can we make sure that these gains are maintained throughout the year, as we go into the future with a lot of new things happening? So very quickly, in 1 minute, Kyoko, I'm pressuring you to say, what do you think?
I think implementing follow-ups, and I think APWiL meetings have been really successful, meeting regularly, and each time I was really amazed that they made sure to have breakup rooms so that we get to know new people all the time. So I think those follow-ups or meeting regularly, just like I did with the D&I working group in our faculty, is very helpful. So so that to nurture a culture of a continuous learning. And if we can have specific or measured goals, that would be better to increase the number of female students by certain year or by certain percentage, something like that.
That's
But
really good ideas from you. I hope people are listening and taking notes. Prof Adeeba, what about your perspectives on this? Like how to make sure, we kind of maintain the gains that we have made.
Yeah, I think setting like what Kyoko just mentioned, setting clear targets and having structured programs are very, very important. Otherwise, there'll be another priority that comes into our lives, and this gets forgotten.
Swept away,
Sorry to plug Monash all the time, but actually the whole EDI agenda is very much upfront and central at Monash. Each year we celebrate a week of it. And we set up university level committees, etc., so that it's always there on the agenda. But that's alone is not enough. And like what Malaysia has decided to do with the percentage representation of female in boards, it's something that we can emulate as well. There are other programs like specific for women, like the Athena Swan program that I believe has been quite successful as well, to see more women representation in different aspects of academic life.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Adeeba. I think that there are a lot of programs going on, but I think follow-ups are important. Monitoring, having frequent meetings, having opportunities to network, and sometimes for younger junior colleagues or students, if you don't provide the opportunities, then it's lost for them. So what Kyoko is doing at university and what you have been doing with your colleagues and support groups, I think that's amazing. So join me, everyone, in thanking both our speakers. I won't let them go yet because we have an opportunity to ask them some questions. I know, Prof. Adeeba, you have to run, literally run to catch a flight soon, but I hope we can maybe get in 1 or 2 questions. I'm just going to ask everyone.
No
Yes. Okay. If you have to go, just give me a signal, because I'm sure everyone is excited to ask the both of you questions. So I'm just going to have a look at the chat to see if there's anyone that wants to ask questions. And a lot of them are just very positive messages. I'm just going to check with Chelsea's giving me, I'm looking at my phone because she's also giving me a heads up. Yes, everyone's so positive, but I'm just going to ask if anyone has any questions to type in the chat, or maybe you can raise your hands and I can and you can ask the question directly. We still have a few more minutes, so do take this opportunity to ask our speakers questions. So let's see if I have any hands raised. And okay, everyone is so overwhelmed by everything that you've said. Busy taking notes, I'm sure. So in the meantime, if we have no questions yet from the audience. I want to ask about like just something, maybe it's a little bit personal, but when you have had your junior colleagues come into like your faculty or even now at Monash University, and Kyoko, have you yourself done anything to kind of like take them aside and not give them a pep talk, but kind of give them this inspirational, maybe not motherly talk, as Kyoko said, they don't want that motherly talk, but because let's say if there's no systemized or systematic program in place. So, have you done this, or maybe you've done this in the past with a junior colleague? Can you share your perspective, Kyoko? Maybe you go first.
Okay. All right. I try to do it, but during the pandemic, it was very difficult to meet with colleagues. I think we could have faculty which in my department it was difficult to meet colleagues during the pandemic, and after pandemic it's also partly true. But I try to talk and try to have lunch with my younger colleagues as much as possible, and not try to be too pushy, but to be available to listen, and because I really liked that kind of talk when I just came to Keio. I don't know about the young generation, but I also want to know what they are thinking, because I have a lot to learn from them. So I try to have opportunities to have lunch with them.
Nice. I like that idea of the informal tea sessions. We have in Malaysia, we call them the teh tarik sessions sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Because
You
we
have
drink
that.
this
That's
tea.
great.
Well, I mean, some people do it. Yeah. Adeeba, did you do anything like? I'm sure you do, right? Okay, I think Adeeba might be frozen for a bit because she's at an airport
Okay, we have
lounge.
two questions.
Yes, we have two
Yeah.
questions. So I'm going to read out one, and I think this one is about how can we, this is from Roslyn Botlero, and she says, how can we collaborate in this platform to foster professional growth at working place towards leadership, a leadership role? So, using, I guess, platforms not like APWiL, and so how can we, you have gone through this, right, Kyoko? Well, both of us have as mentors. So maybe you can share a bit of your perspectives of how we can actually go beyond after we finished our 1 year of mentoring.
Oh, after we finish this mentoring, how we can continue
to
inspire
back.
ourselves?
Okay.
Maybe Professor Adeeba may be a better a better person to ask this question toward leadership role. How we can
sorry, the Golden Lounge Wi-Fi decided to cut off.
I know you
moment.
froze
Oh
for
my
a
God.
bit. No worries. So the question is from Roslyn Botlero about how we can collaborate on this in this platform, but I guess like other platforms similar to this, how can we use such platforms to foster our professional growth in our universities, in our workplace, towards going towards leadership roles?
I mean, I think one of the good things that came out of COVID is we know how to use this technology so much better, right?
Yes.
And so perhaps it's something for APWiL to take on, is to structure a leadership kind of training program via Zoom. Wouldn't it be amazing? Like connecting women from all around the world. It doesn't cost much, except for time, I suppose. But in terms of financial costs, but perhaps structure it and having specific topics to handle, and I'm sure we can tap on so many experts from around the world to lead one topic at a time. I mean, this is what I do, not I, the Royal and Royal, what we do for example, to increase scholarship in research ethics. So we have a Fogarty program with Hopkins, and every Masters of Research Ethics at every 2 months we invite a renowned speaker to speak on a topic to do with research ethics. It can be someone from LMIC, can be someone from the US, and I think this is one way we can start on topic of leadership, mentoring, you know, common issues that we face. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And it, as you said, it doesn't cost much, you know, in terms of we
It
don't
is
have to fly.
organization
Yeah,
and time.
yeah, time. And surprisingly, I mean, no, it's not, well, not surprisingly, a lot of the women leaders, a lot of leaders in general are really willing to give back and to help, you know, to share their perspectives. So this is a really great opportunity to take on.
Yeah, to answer your other question, Steffanie, around do I sit people down and talk? Yeah, I guess so, but particularly over lunch or coffee or whatever. But as much as possible, when I come across opportunities, grants, speaking roles, perhaps to the suspicion of my younger male colleagues. I don't know why. I think I tend to gravitate towards my younger female colleagues. But honestly, it's you know, sometimes you push them into difficult positions or roles that they may not be ready, but you know, it's important to do that as long as you provide the support as they do that, because I think that was how I learned. My mentor, my specialist at the time in Australia, said, Adeeba, go to this clinical trials meeting. That was one of the very first HIV clinical trials back in the 80s. And I'm like, what's a clinical trial? What are they talking about? But, you know, amongst all these experts, and but, you know, you learn on your feet. But perhaps it's 2024. We don't have to do that. We can be a bit more prepared. But I think we shouldn't just wait till everybody's ready and get push them forward earlier.
I like that, pushing forward. I think that there are a lot of untapped potentials that, you know, they're just sitting there and they don't think that they're ready to do anything. So I know we have lots of questions now suddenly coming in, but we are running out of time for the session. So I think taking on Prof. Adeeba's, you know, idea of having kind of leadership sessions, we'll need to invite you again, and where we have more, you know, more time for both of you, and also Prof. Ohara, to come and share your perspectives on leadership, because people are asking about your leadership styles. You know, how did you develop your styles, and they want more examples about, you know, about things that you do. So we'll leave this for another day, and I want to once again thank you so much for sharing your perspectives on, you know, how, and I think we've learned a lot on, like, we all have barriers, but we need to build bridges. I mean, that's important, to have the support and to also do things ourselves, to maybe initiate things ourselves to break these barriers. So thank you very much to Prof. Ohara, to Prof. Adeeba for joining us today. And I would now like to pass over to Professor Dr. Yvonne Lim.
Thank you so much, Prof. Steffanie, for leading the Speakers Forum and also the questionnaire Q&A today. I'd also like to really thank Professor Dr. Adeeba Kamarulzaman and Professor Kyoko Ohara for such an energizing and engaging conversation. We learn a lot from your sharings, and you know, the perspectives of women leaders in Asia Pacific and Australia and Japan and Malaysia. And you know, we realize that it's universal in terms of leadership. I also would like to take in a few seconds to thank Dr. Yong Atila, as well as Dr. Charity and Ms. Nurul Izzatul at Universiti Malaya, who partners with the APWiL Mentoring Program to put this webinar together. And thank you so much for your developing this whole program and executing it today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in this program, to our invited guests as well, in celebrating International Women's Day. You know, I hope that all of you will have a great day today. Thank you as well for all your questions. Apologies that we are not able to take each of the questions, but I'm sure we have other platforms that we could engage and network with each other. Now, a few thoughts about perhaps what resonates as I was listening to the conversation today. I think what's important as well is, as women, we embrace ourselves. We embrace who we are. So I used to feel very sort of unsure whether, being a little bit slightly introverted, slightly soft would actually be good for a leadership, because I'm so exposed to leadership who are strong. And I learned that, that itself perhaps will bring a different perspective of leadership. I think generally as women, we multitask because of the different roles that we play. And because of that ability to multitask, perhaps we are better problem solver, because we need to manage so many things and we don't have time. So we will sort of, be quite quick in terms of making decision, narrowing down to what needs to be done. And because of the roles that we play, we naturally become more collaborative with our kids, with our spouse, with our friends, just calling up, could you help me in this? So I think these are just that gift to ourselves to be able to utilize this behavior in our leadership as well. I think knowing ourselves is important. Being resilient. I think again, that multitasking ability and being resilient comes together very often. And I think one other thing that I constantly remind myself is don't beat ourselves up, because trying to be less critical of ourselves. I know we are very committed and dedicated to our responsibilities, but I think at times we need to have fun. And that's where I learned from Prof. Adeeba. She was my boss. And we worked hard, but we played hard as well. And another thing I think is always to just bite the bullet and go. We will never be 100% prepared for anything. So, why not? If you're given a chance, just grab it and go. And believe in yourself. We do make mistakes, but we learn. We learn as we go along. So, I'd like to sort of leave you with that thoughts. And lastly, I'd just like to finish up with this quote. A charming woman doesn't follow the crowd. She is herself. So with that, I thank you again, everyone, and have a wonderful International Women's Day.